Welcome to my channel. I'm Darcy with the Purposeful Pantry, and welcome to day 9 of the 12 days of dehydrating that I'm doing along with some of my good friends, Lisa Sutton from Sutton's Days, Tangi from the Freedom Homestead, and Amanda from the Fundamental Home. We are doing 12 days of dehydrating projects that are unique and may be something you've never tried before. So, what mine is today is nature's Christmas ornament. I don't know if you're like me, but when I was growing up, I was always fascinated with those little gold toppers that you would put on an ornament that had the hook on it. I always liked to take them off because I was just that kid. And I always looked at a pomegranate as being a cool Christmas ornament. If I could just put one of those little gold caps on, I could hang it on a tree. They're really awesome. They're good in eating on salads, just tossing in your mouth. But I want to know, how many of you are a seed or no seed pomegranate eater? I don't eat the seeds. I like crunching them up, getting the juice, and I spit the seeds out. I'm not a big fan of eating the seeds. But what about you? What do you do? Tell me in the comments below. But these are really messy. The juice can stain anything that you have. So what I need you to do is go get your aprons, put them on, and let's get started. Alrighty, we're going to start with washing our pomegranates first. And the reason that we do this is because if you are going to be cutting into a vegetable, you are still going to be spreading any of the bacteria and dirt that's on the outside into the flesh that you're trying to cut of the vegetable or fruit. So I want to go ahead and make sure that I soak these in some hot water first. I give them a good scrub with these scouring pads that I buy at Dollar Tree. All right, so what we're going to need right now is a cutting mat, a cutting board. I'm using a cutting mat. These are the little flexible cutting mats that you can get from like Dollar Tree. They're a 3-pack for $1. What I don't want to have happen is for the pomegranate juice to stain my cutting board. It can be washed, maybe it can be cleaned off, but I'm just not going to take the chance, so I'm going to use this mat. I also have a small knife to use for cutting the segments out of the pomegranate, and a big knife to help me cut the top off if I need it. Also, what I'm going to be using is a bowl and a strainer, which I haven't pulled out yet, but I'll show you that in just a minute. And before we get started, let me remind you that I've got the links down below for Lisa, Tangi, and Amanda's channels so that you can follow along with their projects as well. So let's get started on this. I'm going to take this pomegranate, which you've already seen me clean, and I am going to cut just the bare top of it off, just so that you can start to see the seeds and where the segments are. Oh, this is going to be a juicy project, isn't it? So, if you can see in here, they have a natural segment line. Usually there's 5 or 6 of them, and that's where we're going to cut. Not all the way through, but we're going to cut down along each of those segments. This is going to help us as we start to de-seed the fruit. Wipe this off really quickly so it doesn't stain. I see it already stains a little bit, but that's okay. It's a cutting board. They're supposed to be messy. So what we have now is this segmented pomegranate. Our next job is going to be, I'm going to actually put these in here because we're going to use this juice later, until I can get all these cut and ready to go on our next project. Stick those in there and pour this little bit of juice in. I know a lot of you might actually think about doing pomegranates this way in order to make pomegranate jelly. And if I were to go ahead and juice these, I would do that too. But today we're going to be dehydrating just the seeds because they will make a great accompaniment to things like chicken salad or any salads that you do. Here's another segment so you can see where these natural segments fall. You can cut there and it will make it so much easier on our next step. Alright, clean them up here and then we'll get started on the next part. Okay. What we're going to do now what I've got is a bowl, a strainer, and a wooden spoon. We're going to take each of these pomegranate and just hold them open. If you have a lot of this membrane that's right here in the middle, you can go ahead and remove that, because that's not something that you're going to be using at all. You can throw it in your compost pile. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this pomegranate and just flip it over. Hold it out and just start tapping it with your spoon. Now you can go ahead and just use a regular spoon and kind of dig these out, or use your fingers and dig them out. But really what I'm wanting to do is break these the least amount possible, so I don't want to dig a spoon into it to have it break the membrane of the actual seed pod, or what do you call these? I don't know what they're called. So the least amount of damage that we can do to these seeds, the better. Now you can see this one is mostly empty, and I can just do that one pretty easily by itself. Now there are probably professionals that are out there that do this way better than me. But there you go. There's that whole section already done. So I think that this has just taken a moment to take care of some frustrations. You see them coming out? Now I'm going to tell you what I did is I actually went and looked on the internet and started trying to track down the best ways to deseed a pomegranate. There were lots of funky ways to do it, and I found this one being the least destructive for the actual seeds and what we're trying to do. You may have a better way, and I'd love to hear below how you deseed a pomegranate. What's your favorite way to do it? It might help somebody else if this is a struggle for them, that they may have a better way to do it. We're going to save those extras right there for the kids who love these things, to let them have some snack on the fresh ones. All right, one down, ready to go. Okay, what we have now are our pomegranate seeds. There's a few little bits of membrane there that can be taken out. So we're going to start spreading these out on parchment-lined dehydrator sheets. And I'm telling you, you're going to want to use parchment, because these seeds, even after having drained, are still wet. And as you move them, some of the membranes might break, and you're going to have some more of the juice coming out, and these will stain your sheets. So you do not want them staining anything that you have. Spread them out as far as you can. I happen to double line these sheets only because I haven't used this particular parchment paper before, and I don't know how it's going to work for liquid, so I'm just double protecting myself to make sure that I don't have to worry about any kind of seepage. We'll get the rest of the trays going. Let's get them dehydrating. I have my dehydrator preheating at 135. For the fruit setting, and we'll get our trays in. And away we go. We'll be doing this at 135 for approximately 12 hours. You'll want to double check at about the 9-hour mark to start seeing how they're doing. After about 9 hours, this is what we're looking at. They have started to dehydrate down really well. I tasted them. They are tart, crunchy little treats. Goodness, I'm going to love these like crazy. So now, because we are at the point where we're not really getting any kind of juice residue coming off of these, I'm going to gently scrape these off, because the sugars in each of these little seeds have made them stick to the parchment paper. And then what I'm going to do is transfer them to my dehydrator trays without the paper. Sorry, can't talk and do it at the same time. Because what I'm looking for is these last couple of hours to have full air exposure to all of the seeds so that we don't have any kind of sticking issues. I know many of you who do paper for all of your dehydrating to keep anything from sticking to your trays, but I like at least those last couple of hours when I'm not having to worry about transfer of dye or not dye, but, well, you know what I mean. No transfer of the juices to stay in my trays. I'm not really worried about these falling through the tray holes, the mesh holes. So, I think we're good. And I'm doing this with clean hands. All right, let's get these. And we have 100% transfer. So I'm just going to spread these out. And let's go through those last couple of hours with the end dry. So if you are concerned that your mesh holes might be a little too big and that these might fall through, what you can do is take one of your pieces of parchment paper or any of your silicone mats and place it on the tray below. This way they will be caught, but it still allows you to have full airflow right here on your tray with your pomegranate pods. Seeds. There's another word for them, and I'll have to look that up. I forgot what that other word is about what you call these. But I am excited to get these finished because they are going to be tasty treats. Are we ready? Let's see how these puppies turned out. All right, so we're turning off the dehydrator. Gonna open the door and let's get a look inside. Right. That noise you were hearing, by the way, was the flapping of the paper in here. It was not any big noise. I stuck the last of my sweet potatoes that we were getting ready for our dog treats for Christmas for the friends that we have that are getting those. So those are ready, going to be packed away. I'll show you those in my last video. Here, here, here. Is that where it goes? It's up there in the corner in the iCards. All right, so what we have is our tray to catch whatever little things might still fall through. And we just got just a couple little crumbs, so that's no big deal. Here we go. Here are our dehydrated pomegranate seeds. I really should look up to see what that actual name is. I'll even put it right here. Here's the name. These are little tiny pods of sweet, tart, crunchy goodness. They are so good. So we have all of these little seeds ready to be stored. What we're going to do is take this out and let it come to room temperature. Then we're going to make sure that all of them, like I'll take a few from each little section here to make sure they are all completely dried. I am ready to go, but we'll let these come to room temperature. Then I'll show you all about conditioning and storing. Okay, now we have our pomegranate arils. I went and looked that up before we started this segment. They are here. They have come to room temperature, so I know that they are at a decent temperature to test them at. Because remember, with dehydrated products, if you test them while they're still in the dehydrator warm, you're not going to get a true indication of how dry they actually are. So I've pulled them out. I've tested them. I've looked at all of the arils and have checked to make sure none of them look like there's any moisture still left within that membrane. They are not tacky. They are all hard and ready to go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do something called conditioning. We haven't really talked about it much on videos before, but I thought this would be a good one to teach you. And I'm going to give you an iCard insert here so that you can go read more about it on the blog. But I'll give you the quick rundown here as I move that tray out of the way and some of the little trash left over. Okay, what we need is an airtight container. You can use any kind of airtight container that you want. This is the one I typically use for doing this. And I'm going to pour my pomegranate arils inside. I have a jar full of 5 pomegranates worth of arils. So what we have here now is a jar full of pomegranate arils. And what we're going to do now is condition. We take these arils and shake them up to make sure everything's fully mixed up. Because what can happen is when you're drying things, some pieces of your produce may dry really well and some may not. You might have a piece or two that contains some moisture that you didn't catch when you were doing your testing. It's one reason why it's important to test from each section of your dehydrator, not just one, and assume that the rest are done. So we're going to put this in some temporary storage. We take this jar for 7 days, once a day, shake it up. If there is any residual humidity here that didn't fully come out of the dehydrator, what happens is that when you're shaking it up and letting it kind of incorporate with each other, it's equalizing the moisture within each of the pieces. But what you're looking for is if there's more moisture than can actually be safely distributed. So indications of that are when you start seeing some condensation around the jar. You start seeing little places where you see water on the inside, just a little bit, one drop. If you start seeing a little bit, take your contents, put them back on your dehydrator, and dry them fully. Make sure they're fully dry, then go ahead and do this process again. If at any point you're doing this and you have seen what looks like a tendril of mold, throw it away, because you cannot safely resuscitate anything in here in your dehydrator. You cannot go back and save it. If you've got mold started, you do not want to eat it, throw it away. So this once a day, every day for a week, shake your jar, put it on your shelf, and check it. Now that doesn't mean that we can't come in here right now and start snacking on this. If I know that in the next 3 or 4 days we're going to polish these off, and yeah, that's probably going to happen, we want to be able to get into them. But if you're talking about putting something up on your shelf to keep for longer than just a couple of days worth of snacks, condition it. It's really for the safety of your family, and it's to protect the work that you did. You worked really hard for this stuff. You don't want to lose it. Here we go. Day 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of day 9 of 12 days of dehydrating. And if you'd like to see more of those projects, just click here and you're going to see the playlist for our 12 days of dehydrating projects. I'm doing this along with Lisa at Sutton's Days, Tangi from Freedom Homestead, and Amanda at the Fundamental Home. And I am so glad you joined me today for Dehydrated Pomegranates.